Hello and welcome to the Burn KC ScorchCast. My name is Alex Blackburn. I am your host for this ScorchCast. As always, got a decent sized show for you today. Got some TBT results to go over. Talking about some college basketball recruiting as well. Got a special announcement I got to make for the college football segment, as well as going over some all Big 12 preseason thoughts. Excuse me. Got some Royal stuff to go over as well as an old friend alert that you may or may not like. Got some Chiefs stuff to go over, some training camp stuff. Obviously, we got to talk about Hopkins sweepstakes. Got some sporting stuff to go over. The League Cup starts tonight. Going to talk a little bit about that. Also got some current stuff, even though they're on break for the Women's World Cup right now. Still got to talk about them. Got 7 games left for them. And got a little bit of some Blues news to go over. But other than that, it should be a packed show, as I said. So let's get started. Let's get into it. I appreciate your presence here. Let's go. Alright, going into some college basketball stuff. I guess TBT is kind of college basketball, but it's kind of its own thing too. I don't know. I call it college basketball stuff because it's college basketball alumni playing against college basketball alumni. But unfortunately, all 3 of the local TBT teams are out. Really, the only one that's left is the Aftershocks of Wichita State. I don't really count them as locals, so they're Kansas, so it counts for something, right? But KU Mass Street, ended up losing. I think there's another part to Mass Street, but Mass Street is the name of the KU team. Ended up losing to Heartfire, which I believe is kind of a team made up of a bunch of Atlantic 10. I think guys from all over, because I saw guys on their roster from like Grand Canyon, Texas. I think there was a guy from St. John's, I think I already mentioned Grand Canyon, sorry. But just a smorgasbord of dudes. I think they're a charity team, and they were much younger and much more basketball fit than the KU team. The average age of the KU team was, I believe, 35. So, and yeah, Keith Langford is 39 years old and still out there, being one of the better players on that team. If that gives you any indication as to how this TBT went for KU, they had a really good showing against Mizzou, which counts for something. Yeah, Mizzou had a bunch of recent grads on their team too, so that's also saying something. That KU's AARP team, as they were lovingly called, got a W over a bunch of recent Mizzou grads. It's something about the state of Kansas and Missouri basketball, I think. But yeah, KU just did not have the horses to compete, or the rest, because they only had a day's rest in between today's game and the game against Mizzou. So it was kind of not a fair fight, but also at the same time, KU has a bunch of old dudes on their team. They weren't expected to last. Well, they were expected by a bunch of TBT pundits to go all the way. But looking at the team, I think most Jayhawk fans were like, "Yeah, we're not getting our hopes up." A bunch of guys dropped out at the end. I think Wayne Selden, Devin Dotson, a couple others dropped out at the end. A couple guys got injured. Tyshawn Taylor, for example. So it kind of left KU shorthanded. But overall, not a terrible performance for the circumstances. K-State's purple and black team got beat by Arkansas pretty handily. And Arkansas is going to be facing Wichita this coming, I think, tonight. I think. So tune in for that if you want to watch that. But overall, performance at the TBT for the Tiger, Jayhawk, and Wildcat alums. Um, let's go to some current college basketball, though. Marcus Adams, the former commit to Kansas, found a home in Gonzaga. He committed to Gonzaga earlier today. I hope he makes it. I just, for a kid that was saying he was homesick, saying he didn't like the culture, I don't think Gonzaga is the greatest place for him. I think, where is Marcus Adams Jr. even from? I think from Texas, if I remember right. But I will double check that. Narbonne High School, where's that? Okay, he's from California, so I mean it's closer. It's closer to home. It's a West Coast team, but Spokane to a private school. I think aren't they a Jesuit school too? Just doesn't seem like the culture that Marcus Adams would fit in. And obviously, KU wasn't a fit. Um, from what I heard, he was kind of an instigator of certain things. I know I kind of sung his praises this past ScorchCast because I didn't have a whole lot of information, but after talking to a few KU pundits, it sounds like Marcus Adams was not the greatest dude in the whole wide world to play basketball with. Which, he's 17, so he's got a lot of learning to do. He's got a lot of growing to do. So it's not necessarily his fault, but when you're the type of guy that gets brought up through AAU ball thinking that he is the end all be all star guy, and then you get to be around other end all be all star AAU guys that have actually proven themselves in the college basketball world, yeah, you're probably going to be in for a reality check. And sometimes those reality checks hurt. Um, which is why I'm like, Gonzaga, I mean, sure, I guess. I mean, they're still a really, really good ball club, so it it'll be interesting to see how he develops. Another interesting development for KU specifically is the Furphy incident, Jordan Furphy. It's interesting because this kid's Australian, and KU needs a guy to fill that Marcus Adams void. Um, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Furphy was being recruited even before Marcus Adams left. He was always meant to be the guy that would replace Marcus Adams, and Marcus Adams would just ride the bench, basically." I don't think that would entirely happen. I think Marcus Adams would still get some playing time, but I mean, again, after hearing some of the stories surrounding Marcus Adams, I'm finding it harder to believe that yeah, he was, a good fit that just didn't like the culture. It was a guy with bad culture not liking the fit. But this Furphy kid seems pretty good. I watched a little bit of his NBL highlights. NBL, if you don't know, is the Australian Basketball League. He plays in the NBL 1, which is um, kind of like the minor league or the G League of the NBL. And he seems solid. I like his game. I can see him fitting in well with this roster, being a good guy to potentially come off the bench in place of Nick Timberlake. And he's young too, so he'll be sticking around for a while and learning under the tutelage of the current KU guards in Juwan Harris, Nick Timberlake, and a bunch of experience. So I think if he knows what's best for him, KU is probably his best option, just given the backcourt that KU has right now. Um, he's got offers from Duke and North Carolina, I believe. I think Gonzaga is somewhere in the mix as well. Um, Arizona too, I think. Um, I think really KU only has to worry about those West Coast schools. I don't think Duke or North Carolina really have much of a chance over um, the three schools: Kansas, Gonzaga, and Arizona. But again, that's hearsay. I don't entirely know, and the only person who knows the whole story is Furphy himself. So we'll see where he goes. I think he would be a good replacement. Obviously, I didn't really see Marcus Adams play. I just saw tape of him. And you know, if a guy is not fit for the culture, then he's gonna have a bad time and he's gonna want to transfer. So that's kind of where we've ended up here with Marcus Adams. So, I moved the mic a little closer so you could hear me a little better. Hopefully you heard that last little part about Marcus Adams before. But yeah, mic's a little closer so you can hear me a little better. But onward to college football. Um, I have a special announcement. Um, After talking with my brother-in-law Nick, who is part of this group called College Football Dogs. I am officially partnered with that group. I'm officially a writer for them, representing KU football. We'll be doing some extensive coverage on KU football, going to games, doing insider stuff, having press passes, everything, the whole shebang. Um, with this group, and I am more than pleased to be partnered with these guys. They seem to be serious college football journalists and college football pundits that really know what they're doing. So thank you to Nick for introducing me to those guys. Um, it's going to be exciting stuff. I can't wait to share all the stuff that I have with you guys, whether that be with my College Football Dogs account or here. So stay tuned for some great college football information. Got a big season coming up for basically the entire Big 12. So it'll be exciting times and a good spot to get in on it, especially for KU football, I think. Um, but yeah, that's my special announcement. Going into some football recruiting stuff. We got a bit of a battle for the number one 20 excuse me, the number one 2024 recruit um, in the state of Kansas. Michael Boganowski is kind of deciding between, well, potentially deciding between either KU or K State right now. He is the top ranked player in Kansas. He is I think, a two-way guy, but mainly plays linebacker, I believe, is what I've seen at least. And he's from the tape that I've seen, he'd be a pretty good asset for either squad. And I never thought that I would see KU actively going after the number one player in Kansas. I mean, if you know KU football recruiting, you know how much of an aversion there was, you know, in years past regarding local talent. I mean, it's where Kansas State thrived first and foremost, and they still thrive. I mean, they still have quite a few Kansas recruits, top Kansas recruits. But KU is finally throwing their hat in the ring and finally giving challenge to Kansas State, something that in the Bill Snyder era was thought to be unheard of. And Klinneman intends to continue this uh, Snyder era local recruiting, finding guys that are close to home. Um, but Kansas is finally giving them a challenge for those Kansas recruits because Kansas football is getting so much better. I mean, you have such a base in Wichita, in Johnson County, and even Lawrence too, that you can tap into and just find guys that can play ball here in Kansas. I mean, there's so much untapped talent. Just everywhere here. You got a lot of them corn-fed boys that again Kansas State thrives off of. I mean, obviously you got the guys from like Plainsville, Dodge City, all those guys out in Western Kansas that are just big, athletic guys that fly under the radar because they live in a town of 160 people and potentially even play 8-man football. But you have guys, especially in the Wichita and the Kansas area or the Johnson County areas, that really have not been looked at by KU all that much. And the fact that KU is finally bringing a focus, two guys in this area and two guys in the Wichita area, is huge because KU has needed a local recruiting base for a very long time. It's how Kansas State has gotten so good. It's how Kansas State has tapped into local guys. It's how Kansas State has put Kansas high school football on the map, is by recruiting these local dudes and having them move on to the NFL. Was obviously, Barry Sanders was probably the best Kansas player ever, being that, he's from Wichita. But as recent guys like Cody Whitehair, Darren Sproles, and a whole bunch of other dudes that just succeeded at the Kansas high school level, moving into the NFL and having successful careers, has is what Kansas State has built. And Kansas can do this exact same thing. I think Devin Neal might be a catalyst for that type of thing. The Lawrence guy, he's a great running back. I think he's got a whole lot of potential. Obviously, the position of running back is not exactly looked upon with favor in the NFL, but I mean, if you got the talent and the durability for it, which I think Devin Neal does, you can reach sky high heights, especially with teams that know how to utilize a running back. So, a little bit off topic there, but yeah, the fact that we have KU and Kansas State battling for the number one player in Kansas right now is a welcome sight to see. I think for both KU and Kansas State. So, um, yeah. But talking about all Big 12 preseason highlights, or all Big 12 preseason players, Jalen Daniels, of course, got the nod for Offensive Player of the Year, as well as I believe there was a few defensive guys, Mike Nowitzki. I think Will Howard may have gotten second team, or third team potentially. I think Clint Ewers is that second team quarterback. Well, Jalen Daniels obviously is the first team quarterback. Um, and Kansas State has a bunch of O linemen. They have the preseason newcomer of the year, I think, in Trayshawn Ward. And just overall, we're seeing a new leaf turn over for Kansas college football. And just I'm excited to see where this rivalry goes in the coming years, because if Lance Leipold can keep up this program and can keep the talent here and keep winning, we're in for a great, great Sunflower Showdown. So, overall, that's my initial thoughts on the Big 12 preseason players list, or all Big 12 preseason players list. Is you've got very, very good Kansas representation on there, which is another welcome sight. So, okay, the Royals. The Royals. They were swept by the Yankees today. The final nail in the coffin being an 8-5 loss, um, in embarrassing fashion, really. Um, just, I mean, fielding's bad. batting's they're feeling sloppy. And sloppy is really an understatement. I mean, it's just been not Major League Baseball, and the farm system's not great. The batting's not great. Um, I mean, there's just no upside. There's no upside to be found, and I think this is the exact spot Royals fans did not want to see this team going into this year. Is being on pace for 100+ loss season. Right now, the Royals are on pace for 117 losses this season. 117. That would be a franchise worst. A franchise worst for the Royals. There's nothing more to be said, honestly. I mean, I'm so tired of talking about this terrible team. I really am. And I have all the love in the world for Kansas City sports. If you know me, you know that I love Kansas City sports, and I love the Royals too. The Royals have been my baseball team. Yeah, but dude, it's making it so hard to cheer for them because it's not the players' fault. It's the front office, it's the management, it's the development of these guys that has been completely stunted by a terrible farm system, a severe lack of trade trade eh, trade competence, I guess, is the best word for it. And overall, just complete lack of team building. And yeah, there's proof in the pudding with this argument. Let's take exhibit here, and this is where I'm going to be talking about the whole old friend thing. Ryan O'Hearn was traded to, or excuse me, Ryan O'Hearn was traded to the Baltimore Orioles at the beginning of the season. He is having a career year with the best team in the American League right now. Aroldis Chapman is with the Texas Rangers and is already one of their premier closers. Let me go over some Ryan O'Hearn stats for you, just so you can see that it wasn't O'Hearn that was bad. It wasn't Chapman. It wasn't Moustakis. It wasn't Hosmer. It wasn't. Well, I mean, Moustakis and Hosmer were good even when they were with the Royals. But, like, yeah, Whit Merrifield, ring a bell? Whit Merrifield's was in the All Star game. How, I don't know, because he's still not spectacular. Andrew Benintendi is another name. Like, let's get back on track and talk about Ryan O'Hearn's stats. Ryan O'Hearn is batting 313, 313 average, has 32 RBIs, 8 home runs, and has a .886 OPS. .886 OPS is the best in the league right now. Ryan O'Hearn has the best OPS in the league. Former Royal Ryan O'Hearn has the best OPS in the league. I mean, it's a testament to just how piss poor, and excuse my language, but it is. It's terrible how bad the Royals farm system is, how bad player development is here, and how bad trade competence is here. It, and I get, trading guys while they're hot, which is what we did with Brian O'Hearn, and look how he turned out. Eh, But this whole thing of not preparing these young guys enough to take the place of the older guys that you are trading is inexcusable. These guys are not MLB ready. I saw a play on Twitter today. Well, Twitter for now. We'll know if it stays Twitter in the coming days, if you've been keeping up with that. But I saw a tweet put out by, I believe it was Royals Farm Report, which, that's a tough job. I envy the person I don't envy, I should say, whoever the person that has to do that. Um, and it was a simple grounder down the first base line that the first baseman misplayed, proceeded to try and glove flip to the pitcher that was on his way to the bag, completely misses the glove flip, and the runner advances to second. I mean, it's not excusable anymore. The Royals are screwing up on routine plays. It it's just bad baseball. It's bad baseball. You can tell that there is no investment or effort to make the on the field product better. No matter what John Sherman says or what JJ Piccolo says, there's no investment. And Kansas City is just held hostage while these rich businessmen throw around pipe dream ideas. We're going to make North Kansas City into the next Wrigleyville. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Do you think anybody will want to go to this Wrigleyville when the team is this bad? This isn't a minor league team. This is the MLB. There's no excuse. You have to have a good on the field product. This isn't the T-Bones. This isn't the the Monarchs. This isn't the Savannah Bananas. This is the Royals. This is Major League Baseball. And you're treating it like it's a minor league team. You have no idea how to run a major league team. In all honesty, John Sherman, if you don't sell the team in the next 5 years, I honestly don't know what to say. Because frankly speaking, you're not gonna get the new Wrigleyville. You're probably not gonna get a new stadium until the on the field product improves. Because Kansas City's not gonna let that happen on their tax dollars. We already have enough problems. You want to talk about building a new Wrigleyville on the taxpayers' money? Give me a break. Give me a break. Rant over. Gosh, I really feel like I talk about the Royals every single time, and it just makes me so angry. I I apologize for if I got a little heated there. Um, yeah, I mean it's my favorite team. Or it used to be, at least. The Chiefs obviously are now. But just the Chiefs are starting to tick me off now too. No. Let's talk about the Chris Jones situation. While I have the vinegar running through my veins, um, and the vitriol. Um, the fact that it's now being said Even though, a week and a half ago, there was full confidence that Chris Jones would be paid by the beginning of training camp. It, it's now being said that the Chiefs and Chris Jones are far apart in regard to a deal, according to Adam Schefter. Which, Adam Schefter is a national news guy, so maybe he doesn't know as well as, say, Adam Teicher or any other Chiefs pundits out there that have a little bit more insider info. Adam Schefter is a guy that does have quite a bit of that insider info, but I'm hoping he's wrong. And I'm hoping he's wrong. Because if they are still far apart on the Chris Jones deal, it's giving shades of Tyreek all over again. And I'm going to take a line from Bird Law Expert on Twitter. He's a Chiefs Twitter guy. Chris Jones is Tyreek, is like the Tyreek situation all over again. Except for the fact that this Chiefs defense does not have a Patrick Mahomes. They do not have a Travis Kelce. They don't have a saving grace in a defensive centerpiece to fall back on. And that's why Chris Jones needs to get paid. And the people that are whining that, and I saw another tweet from a guy that got put in check pretty immediately. But I saw another tweet that just said, Chris Jones is whining because, he's earning $200 million already. First and foremost, no, he's not. He's not. He's not earning $200 million yet. And secondly, he's not whining. He's wanting to get paid like the player that he is, which is on the level of Aaron Donald and company, not on the level of Quinnen Williams. A lot of people are trying to use the Quinnen Williams deal as kind of the baseline for Chris Jones, which is just simply not the case. There has to be, at the very least, a happy medium, which is why I think the Chiefs waited until the Quinnen Williams deal was done, which was smart. I agree it was smart. But the fact that a deal is still not done for Chris Jones is not looking great. It's not looking great. You don't want to franchise tag him because I'm sure he doesn't want to be franchise tagged. And I mean, it's tough to say whether or not a deal will get done because obviously we do not know all the information. Not even Adam Schefter or any of the Chiefs insiders know all the information. But the way people are talking about it seems like it's a bleaker situation than what it is. I think Chris Jones does want to come back. I think Chris Jones has the strong possibility to come back still. But the fact that a deal did not get done before training camp started is concerning. It is. There's a lot more room for doubt now, I should say. I still have confidence that it will get done because I still do trust in Brett Veach. If it doesn't get done, that trust will be faded, though. But there's cause for concern. There is. And I completely see why people are freaking out over it. Do I think it's entirely justified? Not necessarily, but I can see why people are freaking out about it. Some other training camp thoughts. The wide receiver room is looking decent. And I know a lot of people were like, oh, the Chiefs didn't get DeAndre Hopkins. They're going to have the worst wide receiver room in the league now. Give me a break, first and foremost. And secondly, it's not looking bad. We've seen tape of Rashee Rice making some really good catches, Richie James making some really good plays. Really, the only concern for the wide receiver room is the fact that Kadarius Toney tweaked his knee. Um, that could spell trouble because considering Kadarius Toney was supposed to be wide receiver one, that could spell trouble. But it's a knee tweak. It happens to me on an almost daily basis. um, don't don't play contact sports. Do but don't. Do but don't. But I wouldn't think anything of this Kadarius Toney injury. Um, durability is a key hedge point for him. Obviously, a lot of people put his durability into question and have been putting his durability into question. I don't think this is any cause for concern, though. I think he'll be back in time for the regular season. I think he'll be back in time even for the second week of camp. Um, but take it slow. And, while we're at it, let's get Justin Ross some first team reps. Let's get some Rashi Rice reps, Richie James, MBS, and others too. Let's see what this wide receiver room can do against Chiefs corners, which are a young group, but they're a good group, mind you. L'Jarius Sneed is, which there's another guy that contract whose contract needs some reworking, and he needs to be extended, in my opinion. Um, but working against guys like L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie, etc., and succeeding against them is huge for this wide receiver group. So I like seeing that. I like seeing this wide receiver group make plays. I like seeing Sky Moore, too, making plays. I forgot to mention him out of that group. We've seen him a lot in some training camp film. Obviously, this is the first public day of training camp, the first day of training camp that's open to the public. So there could be anything and everything that happens between now and September. So we'll just have to see. Obviously, we still have the preseason to play and the rest of training camp. So we'll just have to see. Alrighty, Sporting Kansas City. Sporting Kansas City has taken a break from MLS play to start the League Cup. The first game of the League Cup starts tonight, I believe at 7. They are playing FC Cincinnati, which I believe is a USL team. I think, or maybe they moved up to MLS. I can't remember. But they're playing Cincinnati tonight. Cincinnati, from what I've seen, is a decent team, so they'll have good competition. Um, but I want to talk more about what it could mean for Sporting with a good performance in the League Cup. Sporting Kansas City has, I believe, 8 games left after the League Cup. And yeah, last time I checked, they're not in the best of spots, but they're not. They still have a chance, and they still well, they're already up 1-0 against Cincinnati. So I guess it started at 6:30. My mistake. Um, that's good. um, but Sporting Kansas City right now is 11th in the polls. They are 4 points back of that final playoff spot. That can easily be overcame in 8 games. It can. But Sporting's going to have to play the best ball of their life in order to make that happen. Without help, at least. If they can still make it happen, even if they don't play their best ball and they drop one or two, probably not two, but if they drop max 2, they can still probably get in. They'll just need help. Dallas will need to lose. Houston and Minnesota will all three need to lose and lose big, um, and just have a bad final stretch. And Sporting Kansas City will obviously need to have a good final stretch. Um, and doing well in the League Cup could certainly help that out. A good performance in the League Cup, and if they win the League Cup, I doubt that they will. I think that they're good. I don't believe that they're that good. There's a lot of really good club teams in North America that could definitely knock them out. But a good performance, which means like probably I'd say quarterfinals or better. I would prefer better. Um, could really spell good things for Sporting. Um, the League Cup is a League Cup. It's not the MLS. It's not winning the major league outright. But the League Cup is still a sweet thing to win. Um, and with a good performance there, you can certainly build a good winning culture, or not winning culture, I guess, but winning way, potato, potato. But you could certainly build towards a good finish to this season if you do well in the League Cup. And, being up 1-0, 11 minutes in is a good start. Now you're going to have to continue that, and Sporting kind of has a problem with being a little bit of a streaky team. But if they can hit their stride now, that would probably be best. If they hit their stride in the final 8 games of the regular season and then go into playoffs with a chip on their shoulder because everybody's counted them out, I think that will work wonders. I mean, it's reminiscent of, if you pay attention to the NBA, the Heat of this year. The Heat didn't have that great of a season, all things considered, but they finished well and they ended up going very, very far in the playoffs, all the way to the championship, off the back of a winning culture and that will to get it done. And I think Sporting Kansas City has the tools to do it. I think Peter Vermees is a good enough coach to make that happen. And overall, I think we've got a good chance. So, um, I'm looking forward to seeing how this League Cup goes. A good performance could spell good things for Sporting, but they've got work to do if they're wanting to make the playoff. So, okay, we're going to do some current news, some Blues news, and then we're going to wrap this up. Some current news. The Women's World Cup has started. So the NWSL is on break for about a month. About a month, I think. Um, 7 games left for the current. It's not looking great for playoffs. They're still bottom of the league. I think this is a learning experience for this team that has not been together all that long. A team that is different from last year's team. I think last year's team was a good, perfect storm of players that really played well together. But obviously, injuries, trades, etc., happened, and this season went its course. So 7 games left after the World Cup break. Um, Obviously, I'm going to be rooting for the USA. I'm hoping they do really well. There's a couple of current players on the USA team that have so far had a good tournament. Unfortunately, Sam Muse was supposed to be one of them, and she ended up getting hurt. So that's unfortunate, but she made a good speech at the ESPYs, I must say. So, um, as far as some Blues news goes, we have a little bit of junior Blues news. The Junior Blues ended up placing eighth at the National Invitational Tournament that they went to. It's a sevens tournament. Juniors went up against the best competition in the nation in regards to sevens rugby in high school, and did really well. Had some nice wins, some pretty close losses against really, really good teams, and we're proud of them here. So congrats to the Junior Blues. Way to represent the Kansas City Blues program, as well as Kansas City in general. You made us all proud. Shout out to Coach Casey, teammate of mine, good friend. Um, Way to go. Well done. Um, as far as in just great season in general too. As far as the Kansas City Blues adult club goes, they went down to Columbia for the Show Me games. Ended up placing, I believe, third out of the teams there. Kansas City, Kansas Rugby Football Club ended up placing first. So hats off to them. They've had some really good sevens this summer. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that 15s matchup will line up. I think that'll be a good game overall, and they've got some pretty good talent over there with KCRFC. But the Blues had a heck of a season as well. Hats off to them. 15's season is right around the corner, though, and they've got some big aspirations. New coach Jamie Dever is pretty good, um, and we're hoping that um, Scott Cram, Derek, and all those Nelson and all those guys can lead this Blues team back to the promised land and to a Midwest title and beyond this next go around. There's a lot of talent coming in from overseas, and there's going to be a good training program to start the season. So if you're interested, come out and play. Shall you? Shall we? Um, but yeah, that's our show. Thank you very much for joining me on this little Sunday evening episode. If you're watching it Sunday evening, you could be watching it Monday. I don't know. But again, thanks for joining. I appreciate your viewership as well as you reading my articles and just supporting me in general. I'm excited to take this next step with college football dogs. Again, shout out to Nick Friesen who introduced me to them and got me involved. I'm really excited to see where this goes and to give all I can to that organization. So, um, thank you very much. This has been the Burn KC signing off. Have a great night, and I will see you next Sunday. This is the Burn KC.